Welcome back to the DAC Recap, the show where we recap all things Drexel and Philadelphia sports. I am your host, Luciano Duffy. Make sure you like and subscribe down below. Now, let's jump right into it. Drexel sports are hot. Between banner-ending seasons, hot spring starts, and Dragons getting nationally recognized, Drexel sports has been on a tear this past week. Aside from the stresses of Week 9, it is a good week to be a Dragon. Try to follow along and count how many wins Drexel sports have accumulated this week. Starting us off, your Drexel Dragons are CAA men's basketball champions. This is the first time Drexel has won the CAA championship since joining back in 2001. With this victory, the Dragons punch their ticket to the big dance. This marks the first time in 25 years that Drexel is making it to March Madness. For reference on how long it's been, here are some things that happened back in 1996. Pokemon was just introduced to the world. The Fox News Channel made their debut. Bill Clinton was re-elected as president. Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls were in the middle of their second three-peat as NBA champions. There were only 100,000 websites compared to the current over 1 billion that exist today. Independence Day was the largest grossing movie. The Tickle Me Elmo toy was just released. And the craziest stat of them all, most current Drexel students weren't even alive yet. Before we dive into the big championship game, let's recap how the Dragons got here. The Dragons came into the CAA tournament as the 6th seed. Their first win came against number 3 seeded College of Charleston, 80-75. It was a well-balanced scoring attack for the Dragons as Zach Walton, Cam Winter, TJ Bickerstaff, and James Butler all had themselves double-digit nights. Walton led the bunch with 17 points as he shot 5 for 6 from long range. Winter added 16 points with 4 assists. TJ Bickerstaff had 12 of his 14 points in the second half alone and grabbed 8 boards to go along with it. Butler added 12 points and 8 rebounds as well. Drexel's team set numerous tournament records on Sunday. The 11 three-pointers shattered the team's previous mark of 8. The Dragons shot 61% from behind the arc, and their .554 shooting percentage broke the team's previous record set in the 2011 season against Townsend. On Monday, the Dragons beat the number 2 seeded Northeastern Huskies 74-67. Again, 4 Dragons were able to score double-digit points. However, this time, freshman Xavier Bell replaced TJ Bickerstaff on the list. Bell had 11 points, while Bickerstaff grabbed a career-high 11 rebounds. Walton led the scoring again for the Dragons with his 15 points, as Cam Winter was just behind him with his 14. Butler scored 12 points and grabbed 12 rebounds for his 6th double-double of the season. Butler also scored his 1,000th career point in this game. He moved into 9th on Drexel's career rebounding list. Tuesday was the biggest victory of them all, as the Dragons beat the 8th-seeded Elon Phoenix 63-56. This snapped Elon's 7-game win streak. This time, it was Drexel's bench players who led the scoring, as Mate Okris and Xavier Bell dropped 14 and 11 respectively. Okris did his scoring from behind the arc and went 4 of 5 from 3. Drexel junior guard Cameron Winter was named the most outstanding performer of the tournament and was joined on the all-tournament squad by teammates James Butler and Zach Walton. In this COVID-riddled season, the Dragons were able to stay focused and win it all. Their 2 weeks off in mid-February due to the COVID seemed to have been a blessing in disguise, as they had fresh legs and were hungry for competition. Due to all their cancellations this season, and because JMU hosted the tournament, the Dragons actually played more games at the Atlantic Union Bank Center than they did in their own DAC this year. With all their newfound success here, it begs the questions. Should Drexel just relocate their home court? Do I have to rename my show? Welcome back to the Atlantic Union Bank Center recap? Nah, that doesn't flow. All jokes aside, congratulations to the men's basketball team on an incredible finish to their season. Now, we all wait for Selection Sunday in order to determine Drexel's next opponent in March Madness. As for the girls' basketball team, they are currently en route to their own CAA championship run. They enter the tournament as the 3rd seed and will take on the tournament's host, the 6th-seeded Elon Phoenix, tonight. Drexel's Hannah Nihil became the first ever Dragon to earn the CAA Defensive Player of the Year award. Nihil also received the prestigious Dean Ehlers Leadership Award. She was also named a first-team All-CAA performer and was joined on the All-League team by Kashana Washington, who was an All-CAA third-team selection. Good luck in the tournament, girls. In other Drexel sports news, the golf team completed its southern trip with a convincing victory at the Dow Bendow Invitational. The Dragons had by far their best round of the season and ran away from the field at the Jacksonville Beach Golf Course. The Dragons finished Tuesday's round 1 over par and ended the event at 585 plus 17. Angelo Giant Solopuslo picked up medalist honors. It was the first victory of the senior's career at Drexel. Alex Butler was right behind him as he finished in second. The senior shot 1 under par on the day and finished the 36th hole event at 143, which was plus 1. The Dragons had 3 student athletes finish in the top 5 as fellow senior Jeffrey Cunningham tied Butler for the best round of the day. He finished the event tied for 4th overall at 6 over par. Last Wednesday, the Drexel's men's and women's swimming teams opened up their seasons at Villanova with a split. The men's defeated Villanova 123-81, while the women fell to the Wildcats 115-84. In the men's 200-meter medley, the Dragons finished first and second, picking up 15 quick points. Freshman Will Salio breezed to a first-place finish in the men's 100-yard freestyle with a time of 9:32.99. Salio also earned first place in the 500-yard freestyle. John Scully contributed to the third-place finishes for DU. His relay team was victorious in the 200-yard medley, the 100-yard free, and another in the 200-yard free. On the women's side, Ryan Styler also had an outstanding meet. She earned first place in both the 50-yard and the 100-yard freestyle. Styler was also part of the first place 200-yard free relay team. The diving events for both the men's and women's were unfortunately canceled. The women's lacrosse team have continued their undefeated season as they picked up wins versus fellow Philly opponents Temple and Villanova. Against Temple, the girls won 19-11 behind freshman Corinne Benark's 6 points. This was her second 4-point game of the season, and her 6 points were a career best. Jamie Schneiderith and Colleen Grady each chipped in 4 goals as well. Against Villanova, the Dragons scored their first 5 goals of the game and never looked back. They ended up beating the Wildcats 17-7 in what was their home opener at Vitus Field. Colleen Grady led the charge as he set a personal high with 8 points in the game. Carson Harris contributed 6 points as she moved into 6th place on Drexel's career scoring list with 172. Drexel's Corinne Bednark has been awarded CAA Women's Lacrosse Rookie of the Week honors. Colleen Grady, Carson Harris, and Lucy Schneidereth are each ranked in the top 5 in the league for both goals and points. Zoe Bennett averages more than 10 saves per game, which leads the CAA. This 5-0 start for the Dragons lands them nationally ranked as they are 16th in the latest Inside Lacrosse poll and 24th in the IWLCA Division I coaches pool. The Dragons will be off until March 20th, where they will host LaSalle. The men's lacrosse team opened their season with a 12-10 victory versus Townsend. Sean Donnelly, a redshirt transfer from Syracuse, led the scoring for the Dragons as he found the back of the net on 4 occasions, totaling 7 points on 14 shots on net. Ryan Gennard scored 3 times and dished out 2 assists as well. The Dragons broke a 10-10 tie with the final 2 goals of the contest. This ensured the Dragons' first victory over the Tigers since 2015. Drexel is scheduled to face the University of Delaware this Saturday at Vitus Field. The men's soccer team split last week with games against SJU and LaSalle. Against SJU, the Dragons were able to bounce back from their 2-0 defeat earlier in the season as they handled the Hawks this time 4-0. Chris Donovan scored 2 goals and tallied 2 assists for the Dragons. Drexel scored 3 of its 4 goals in an 8-minute span. The Dragons' defense was dominant throughout the match. Not only did it keep the ball on the offensive side of the field for the majority of the game, but Drexel also held St. Joseph's to 6 shots as goalkeeper Steven Kolopasili earned his 9th career shutout. On Saturday, however, the Dragons lost 3-1, with the only bright spot being that Elliot Swingner scored his first collegiate goal. Next up for the Dragons is a match against Hofstra this Saturday. The women's soccer team, along with the men's and women's tennis teams, did not compete last week as they had their games postponed. As for the Sixers, they picked up an impressive win against the Utah Jazz last Wednesday. Joel Embiid continued to make his case for MVP as he dropped 40 points and 19 rebounds. But that wasn't all. Down by 3 in the last possession of the game, Embiid dribbled out past the 3-point line and drilled one right over Bojan Bogdanovic to force overtime. In OT, Tobias Harris had it his way. He scored 11 of the 13 Sixers points and led them to a 131-123 win. Philly's presence down at the All-Star game in Atlanta was greatly diminished as Embiid and Simmons both couldn't play as a result of COVID-19 contact tracing. They both used a barber who tested positive, which is why the NBA decided to play it safe and not include the duo. Doc Rivers was the coach for Team Durant, but they lost to Team LeBron 170-150. Lastly, it was announced on March 2nd that fans will be allowed back for Sixers and Flyers games in the Wells Fargo. The Sixers will allow fans at a limited capacity for their next home game against the San Antonio Spurs on March 14th. And that's all for the DAC recap. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram. Tune in next week for yet another recap.